The Shark Deck.
I can't tell if late night has just gotten worse, or maybe the OG writers have retired, or maybe the Trump era was just funnier. Late night is in a slump. Hi, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. The topic, Tom Brady's lost the other night. And these are, I'm tempted to not even do them, but I just want to illustrate that jokes have gone downhill. Jimmy Fallon, the Cowboys knocked Tom Brady and the Bucs out of the playoffs. Yeah, now fans want to know, will Tom Brady retire or retire then immediately unretire? And that's like the best of the jokes. Fallon again, yeah, after the game, Brady was thinking about retiring, but then he saw the price of eggs and was like, I can't retire now. Jimmy Fallon again, I don't know what else Brady wants to accomplish, though. It's kind of like Jeff Bezos playing Mega Millions. It's like, you already have all the money. Let's try Kimmel. He was 7-0 against Dallas lifetime. Now he's 7-1. Brady was reportedly so upset after the game, he ate a carb. That was all right. Seth Meyers, according to a new report, 3 NFL teams are considering pursuing quarterback Tom Brady when he becomes a free agent, not to mention about a dozen bocce leagues. Leslie Jones hosted The Daily Show. We're going to get just a touch naughty here, so I try and keep the podcast clean, but I'm going to have to talk about what Leslie Jones talked about. So what did she talk about, and how can I keep it clean? All right. Say you were really in love with a woman, and you wanted to bring her great pleasure, and you would give her a kiss, maybe not on the mouth, like maybe somewhere else. You with me? Okay, that? All right, we're going to use a code word. We're going to use a safe word together for this. I'm looking at my water bottle. I'm just going to say water bottle. She said something else to describe thing I just awkwardly tried to not describe. You with me? Okay. My next question to you as you listen to this. Is this what we want from The Daily Show? Like, are you really going to hand Leslie Jones The Daily Show and turn The Daily Show into this? Are you ready? Yes. She showed an image of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. statue that was unveiled in Boston the other day. Did you see this one? I don't even know how to describe it. If you haven't, why don't you pause the podcast and Google it? Okay, you're back. Great. Leslie Jones stared at the sculpture for a few seconds, and the sculpture is supposed to depict King and his wife, Coretta Scott King, in a loving embrace. Leslie Jones had one question for the audience, and here's our code word coming up. Ready? Has anyone in here ever been water bottle? That's a pretty dirty joke for The Daily Show. I'm not sure that's what I want out of The Daily Show. She continued, because they're celebrating you right now in Boston. Listen, I know Dr. King went down in history, but this is not how you show it. Okay, she did a little wordplay there that I'm not going to touch. She then turned to a different camera to speak for a moment directly to any white people watching at home and said, white people, you don't need to say stuff about this statue. You need to sit your ass in the back of the bus for this one. This is a civil rights icon. And then she added, water bottle on his wife. You show some damn respect. She then turns back to the first camera, puts her heads in her hands and says, okay, black people, what the F we going to do? You know it's messed up when black people and the Proud Boys hate the same statue. See, that's a good joke. Do that. But she added, you know, people hated the Eiffel Tower when it first went up. Maybe it's just a matter of time, and in time we'll see the statue for what it really is. Martin Luther King, water bottle with his wife. She says, I can't unsee it. A little too dirty for my taste. All right, this next topic, Gutfeld. I have been accused in the past of not talking about Gutfeld on this podcast. I like talking about Gutfeld. There's just never any Gutfeld stories. You may recall the other day, I told you CNN is thinking about getting into late night, maybe hiring Jon Stewart, or in their wildest fantasies, Trevor Noah, who's never going to do it. I'll tell you right now, there's a better chance. I'm serious here. I'm 100% serious here. There is a better chance of Trevor Noah guest hosting this show that you're listening to right now than doing the CNN show. And here's why. If I got to Trevor Noah and I was like, hey, you want to host Daily Comedy News? You can do it from your hotel room and I'll have my staff clean it up. You just got to riff some headlines for 5-8 minutes. There's like the slightest chance that he would go, that's fun. Yeah, I'll do that. There's no chance he's going to CNN and sitting in a desk for 2 hours, 4 nights a week, 5 nights a week. Zero chance. Hey, Trevor, if you're listening, I'll be happy to take a week off if you want to do it. Anyway, Gutfeld, he had an opinion piece on the Fox News website. I will read it to you. Gutfeld says, turns out, thanks to the smashing success of this show, Gutfeld, which happened because of our awesome fans and my razor wit and my washboard abs, other networks now want a hit comedy show of their own. According to the news site Semaphore, CNN is reportedly considering hiring a comedian to host one of its primetime shows. That makes sense. The network is still a joke. That's mean. Apparently, some floated names that included Bill Maher, Trevor Noah, Arsenio Hall, and Jon Stewart. What? No Elaine Boozler? Elaine Boozler. Elaine Boozler. I'm just going to say it. Elaine Boozler. Anyway, but if they really want comedy, they should relaunch CNN Plus. That debacle made me laugh far more than the dead crow stapled to Chris Wallace's scalp. But isn't that the point, really? CNN was already funny, and they went ahead and they nailed it. I'm talking, of course, about the golden age of comedy, Chris Cuomo, Don Lemon, Brian Stelter, or as they're known in the business, the Three Stooges. Those were the days, right? I'm sure he did this monologue better than I'm doing it. Now everything's ruined. Chris lost his gig after trying to help his brother Andrew fend off a sexual harassment scandal, which is like having Alec Baldwin teach you gun safety. All right, legitimate joke in there. Skipping ahead a little bit, he said, Stetler, sadly for us, took time off to spend more time with his hoagies. Do you know he gave blood last week? That's how they make Alfredo sauce. So disgusting. I know, it's gross. Yeah. He then referenced Norm Macdonald. Let's see if I can dust off my Norm impression here. Gutfeld said, take the late, great Norm Macdonald. After O.J. Simpson's acquittal in 95, he said, well, it's official. It's finally official. Murder is legal in the state of California. The audience roared because they knew it was true, but they also laughed because Norm was saying something he got the feeling he wasn't supposed to say. Rumors swirled that some execs at ABC didn't want him doing OJ jokes. Time out. If you want to just LMAO, as the kids say, go on YouTube and type in Norm Macdonald OJ jokes. There are montage of these things. They're like 40 minutes long, and it's just Norm riffing OJ jokes, and they're fantastic. You know what? Now that I dusted off my half-ass Norm Macdonald impression, let's go on a lark. I have found on funny115.com some Norm Macdonald OJ jokes from February 95. Norm Macdonald said, "This book, O.J. Simpson says that he would have taken a bullet or stood in front of a train for Nicole. Man, I'm going to tell you, that is some bad luck. When the one guy who would have died for you kills you, that's probably, well, you don't get worse luck than that." From January of that year. According to the National Transportation Safety Board, sleepy truckers are responsible for 1,000 deaths a year. In second place, O.J. Simpson at 2 deaths a year. That was so funny, I couldn't keep a straight face reading it. One more, and the impression is very half-assed today. I'm aware I'm not nailing it. You don't have to write me a letter. It was revealed today that O.J. Simpson told police that Nicole Brown Simpson used to beat him up. He also claimed that she and Ron Goldman killed him. There's a lot of these. All right, this might be the new when I don't have enough stories filler thing that I do. Back to Gutfeld. Take the late, great Norm Macdonald. After O.J. Simpson's acquittal in 95, he said, well, it's official. It's finally official. Murder is legal in the state of California. The audience roared because they knew it was true, but they also laughed because Norm was saying something he got the feeling he wasn't supposed to say. Rumors swirled that some execs at ABC didn't want him doing O.J. jokes. He was willing to break the rules to tell the truth. So how can a network do that while calling moms pregnant people? In order to be effective at comedy, you've got to rely on truth, not ideology. And then the next sentence, I'm going to share it, but it bothers me, this next sentence. I kind of don't want to even verbalize it, but I want to share it because I think it gives you an overall picture of what Gutfeld is doing. So I used to work at a big radio company that you've heard of, and you've heard me mention. So when I was there, I would have the staff a couple times a year. I'd get together and remind them of the rules. We were comedy channels, but we were trying to have fun, not insult people or not hurt people. And we were always careful about hate speech. And I think this next thing I would have flagged for the staff and been like, don't do that. What are you doing? Don't do that. All right, I'm going to back up one sentence. Then I'm going to read the thing that is chiming my bells. Gutfeld. So how can a network do that while calling moms pregnant people in order to be effective at comedy? You've got to rely on truth, not ideology. CNN is sort of trans in that way, meaning they identify as truthful. It's a weird joke, Greg. Be better. Hey, you know how every now and then I tell you when I started this podcast, I thought I was going to talk about tours and comedy specials and stuff. And then every day it seems we wind up in these horrible places. Oh, and there's one more horrible story to come, but that'll be in the second half of the podcast. Let's do what I thought this podcast was going to be. Nate Bargatze. He's got a special coming out soon, and the trailer is out. Nate Bargatze's Hello World will be released on Amazon January 31st. A new trailer for the special shows Nate in his element. He's on a 360-degree stage at the Celebrity Theater in Phoenix, Arizona. In the trailer, he tells the joke, I'm the firstborn. We show up, our parents aren't ready. They don't have any money. The youngest just show up and their parents are trillionaires. It's like, what's an upstairs? That's like a home on top of a home. The special will tackle topics like growing up in the 80s and 90s, the hardest part of a marriage, and saying dumb things. And Madonna has released an homage to her 1991 film Truth or Dare. In this one, we see her playing a salacious round of the game Truth or Dare with some of the biggest and most current names in comedy. Yes, you're right. That is weird. Madonna's doing a music tour. It's called the Celebration Tour. She has not become a stand-up comic, but in her trailer for her music tour, we see Jack Black, Judd Apatow, Amy Schumer, who once toured with Madonna, and some more alty comics like Eric Andre, Kate Berlant, Larry Owens, Bob the Drag Queen, and Megan Statler. Let me talk about what's going on behind the scenes of the podcast for about a minute. If that bores you, skip ahead. So in the next few days, you might encourage some weirdness. Maybe the feed doesn't work for like an hour or so. What's happening is the files are just moving from like that hard drive over there to this other hard drive over there. Why are you doing that, Johnny Mac? I have a deal where how the commercials are handled are changing. The end goal of that, in full transparency, is so that this podcast can generate more money. So it's just moving from, company A to company B. And then hopefully company B can sell more, they're called host reads. So it's me reading the copy as opposed to, say, the commercial for the casino that you hear 9 times a show. And thank you, casino. I really appreciate it. So you'll start to hear more of that as time goes on. And as we move the wires from here to there, something weird might happen in the next day or two. But if that does, just, give it a beat and then come back and download the episode. Should be fine. And then in a worst case scenario, your phone's going to download all 1,100 previous episodes and you're going to want to kill me. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Anyway, so that's what's going on there. Got a note from Kenny. Kenny is one of the OG listeners of the show, been listening for quite some time, and a monthly member on buymeacoffee.com. We sometimes trade emails about coffee. He's always trying to get me to go to that place with the green logo, and I always go to the National Donuts chain. He told me at the green place, I hear the new pistachio cream cold brew is a hit this season. All right, I'll stop by when I'm driving by, because Kenny buys me a coffee every month. Least I could do is honor his wishes and try the new pistachio cream cold brew. And if you'd like to support the show like Kenny, go to buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews and follow the instructions on the screen. But the real reason for Kenny's note is he told me he was listening to 5 Good News Stories. So that's the podcast I started right around Christmas time, low key. You've heard the promos at the end of this podcast. So 5 Good News Stories. It's 5 stories, and they're all kind of good news. While we're backstage, let me tell you. So I'm trying not to have the show devolve into, hey, someone's lost dog came home after 6 months. There's tons of those stories. They're all great. I'm a big dog person, but I don't want the podcast to be that every day. I also don't want the podcast every day to be somebody was sick and now they're not. Also great news, but I want the podcast to be varied. So I'm mixing in what we call in radio kicker stories. So a kicker story is when, now I'm going back to the 1990s when we actually used pieces of paper and stuff. So you would put together a package for your host of, here's the stuff we could talk about today. And the kickers were things you could use or not, depending on if you were running short or long. So if you're running short, you could pull something out. A smile story is another way to call it. And if you didn't get to it, you didn't get to it. Now, a lot of those are smile stories. They're not necessarily good news, but they're quirky things. Like there's one in an upcoming episode of 5 Good News Stories about a guy who ordered every topping from a local pizza chain. So he got like a pizza with everything on it. Like, I mean, everything. So is that good news? I don't know. But it's fun. So that's that show, 5 Good News Stories, wherever you get your podcast. And he was asking me if travel is back. We'll have another season. Yes, it will. I mentioned I have some upcoming travel. On the upcoming travel, I'm going to record a whole bunch of things. Got a cool little trip coming up. So those are the podcasts, 5 Good News Stories, and travel is back. Those are some other things that I do. I'm also the writer on Palace Intrigue, and we've had a great month. All right, today, the Snow Jam Comedy Festival kicks off. Let's see who's playing. The Snow Jam Comedy Festival. It's in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It's its 8th year. Early in the day, Dan Bublitz, friend of the show, comedian, and dude who I'm working on this partnership with. He's hosting Building a Better EPK for Your Success. That's at the Spellbound Magic Shop and Theater. If you're not in the biz, an EPK is an electronic press kit. That's pretty cool. I got to have Dan on one of these days. That topic interests me a lot. Dan listens every day. Dan, let's talk on the side about that. 6:30 p.m. tonight. Remedy at Frostbite Comedy. Good name tonight, 6:30. Remedy at 6:11. 10 comics hit the stage, including Lisa Rossi. So Snow Jam Army with these bios. So let's just randomly, I haven't pre-read this. I scammed it. I looked at the homework. Don't send me a note, Dan. I did look at it. I didn't memorize it. I like doing these things cold. You know that. So Lisa Rossi is one of the performers. She explores the mysteries of marriage, Midwestern life, and why she loves Chardonnay and French fries so much. See, that's fun. She's also played the Omaha Comedy Festival, Laugh Riot in L.A., and the name of a comedy festival in New Orleans I can't even pronounce. Let's see who else is on that show. Jenny Lou Rusi, born in Ohio, brewed in Alaska is her bio. She began her career at Pierce Street Annex in Alaska, honed her comedy chops at the Cleveland Improv, recent winner of the Rivercade Comedy Competition. Credits include Real Stories of the Highway Patrol. So that's a 6:30 show, and I like a nice early 6:30 show. All right, so that's today, 10 comics. Then at 9 o'clock, the Let It Snow Comedy Showcase, 10 more comedians. I love 10 comedian shows. Noah Kopfer, let's check out his bio. He has 2 specials out on YouTube. That's cool. A full hour titled Deep Breaths and a mini special produced by Don't Tell Comedy. He's one of the 10. So is Mel Mackey. Melanie Mackey is a, quotes, overwhelming ball of energy from Des Moines. She uses comedy to pursue her constant need for attention. I'm digging it. With a background in theater, improv, cheerleading, and gymnastics, and a full-time job planning weddings, she just wants everyone to have a good time. So that show's at 9. Snow Jam Comedy Festival, you guys are bringing it. I mean, for me, I meet my buddies at like 5. We grab a beer or 2, hit the 6:30 show, 10 comics, jot down some notes. Hit a 9 o'clock show, 10 different comics, jot down some notes, go back to the room, knock out a podcast. My kind of comedy festival. Nice job, Snow Jam Comedy Festival. I'm running long today. All right, Joe Rogan, he's at the Creek in the Cave in Austin tonight. He's also the guest on this week's Kill Tony. I haven't listened to that yet, but I have it saved for a long drive I have coming up. Hey, remember the other day I told you about Justin Roiland? He's one of the creators of Rick and Morty and Solar Opposites and Koala Man. That guy is also the voice of Rick and the voice of Morty. So if you like Rick and Morty, he's kind of crucial to that show. Told you the other day that it came out that he was charged in 2020 with 1 count of domestic battery with corporal injury and 1 count of false imprisonment by menace, violence, fraud, or deceit. The Hollywood Reporter picked up the story. Roiland's attorney called the media coverage of the charges inaccurate, adding, to be clear, not only is Justin innocent, but we have every expectation that this matter is on course to be dismissed once the district attorney's office has completed its methodical review of the evidence. From what I gathered, the point of the Hollywood Reporter's article was to observe that Adult Swim has so far declined to comment on the news, adding the show isn't even halfway through a 70-episode order commissioned by the channel in 2018. The series is consistently the most watched on Adult Swim. It recently completed 6th season, averaged 560,000 viewers for its initial airings. Meanwhile, on Hulu, Roiland plays a main character on Solar Opposites. I've actually been workshopping a half-ass Corvo impression. I've almost got it down. I got to nail the voice a little more, but I figured out how you do a Corvo if you watch Solar Opposites. It's basically rant on same topic, and then a left turn. So it would be like, and I don't have the voice yet, but it would be like if he were complaining about AstroTurf and baseball. It would be something along the lines of, why don't they play on real grass? And why is the grass green anyway? And whatever happened to All-Star voting? I liked punching those ballots. That, but I don't have the voice yet. A lot of half-assed impressions today. Should I just finish up as half-assed Jeff Foxworthy? Roiland also executive produces and does voice work on Koala Man. He also has a video game company. My son turned me onto this. The company's called Squanch Games, and they put out this game in December. It's on Xbox Game Pass, which is how I got it. Yes, I'm a big kid. It's called High on Life. It's a first-person shooter, but it is LOLLMAO, like truly, truly funny. So you're holding a gun, but your gun speaks to you, and the gun speaks to you in 99% the Morty voice. The humor is very Rick and Morty. It's basically a Rick and Morty game, but, totally not. Totally legally distinct. This isn't Rick and Morty at all. What are you talking about? One of those. The game is a lot of fun. It's called High on Life. You'll find it on Xbox Game Pass. It's seriously funny. Can I spoil a little bit of it? All right, I'm going to spoil the game. Skip ahead 30 seconds. I'll do it real quick. Spoiler. So at one point during the game, your character gets a computer virus and like fake ads keep popping up on your screen. So you're trying to shoot stuff, but you can't see because there's ads. Very funny. Spoiler over. All right, we're too long today. That's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. See you tomorrow. Did you hear about the border collie who recycles trash when he's out on his walks? Or how about the bear that stole someone's Chick-fil-A, but good news, left the salad behind? Hi, I'm Johnny Mac, host of 5 Good News Stories. Don't worry, I have stories about humans too, like there's a woman who makes a living because she looks like Jim Carrey. It's my podcast. It's 5 Good News Stories. 5 Good News Stories. The number 5 Good News Stories. Twice a week. 5 Good News Stories. Oh, and Shamrock Shakes are back too. Good news. 5 Good News Stories, wherever you get your shows.